Hey y'all, today's project is this little footed sleeper for baby. I've got pattern details linked below and above, so take your pick, check out that post on how to get the pattern, and then I'll meet you back at the camera to show you how I made this. Let's go over the supplies. You should have two front pieces, and note that these are not mirror images, they're separate pieces. You should have a back piece that has been cut on the fold. You should have two sleeves cut on the fold. You should have two toe pieces, two sole pieces, two snap tab pieces, and one gusset piece. You should have two of the zipper guards, and then you need a zipper and a snap. Now the first thing we're going to do to sew this together is assemble the front. And the first thing we need to do for that is the zipper and the zipper guards. So I'm going to start with this smaller half of the front. I'm going to place the zipper right sides together with my front piece. And I am also going to take one of the zipper guards and I'm going to place that right side down. So I'm making like a sandwich out of the zipper. I am swapping my regular presser foot on my machine, and instead I am going to put in the zipper foot, and then I am going to stitch that zipper into place. Okay, here is what that looks like when it is sewn on. And what we're going to do next is flip it so that I can see my stitching line. And I used a straight stitch here because the zipper doesn't stretch, so our stitch doesn't need to stretch either. I'm going to fold my zipper guard around just so that the raw edge meets the stitching line there. And then we will flip the zipper out and this down. And I can add some pins. But what I want to do next is, you see how that fully encloses the edge of the zipper so that it won't end up against baby's skin. And we're going to top stitch now on this line. So you want to make sure your bobbin thread is the correct color because that's what we'll be showing on the outside. And you want to use a stretch stitch because we're not actually sewing the zipper anymore. We're sewing this stretch fabric to this stretch fabric. I want to call your attention to something here on the top stitching. You need to stop at the same point as the zipper stop on the bottom, because when this second side gets added, we are going to need to stitch that seam together at the bottom of the zipper. So you need room to be able to do that. If you top stitch further down to the rest of the zipper guard, you're gonna box yourself in. Okay, so here this is top stitched down. And we can see what the side of the front looks like, and now we need to do the same thing with the other side of the front. So this is the one that has the little extension here, and this is actually in between the legs. This is where the gusset's going to go. But we're going to put this whole assembly right sides together with this side of the front, and we will take the other zipper guard and place it right sides together and repeat the same process we just did of stitching the zipper and then folding the guard over and top stitching it. Additionally, when I top stitch this second side here, I'm gonna stop at the top of the leg because I don't want stitching right here on the very inside of the leg. Okay, so here's how I'm going to sew this bottom portion of the seam. I'm going to fold this in half. I want the zipper stop right at the center. And I'm going to line up the raw edges of this portion of the garment. So I'm going to stitch from the edge up to the spot where the zipper stop is here. And you can see I'm just kind of folding my zipper guards out of the way. So use a stretch stitch and sew that little spot up to the bottom of the zipper. Here is that stitched together, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my top stitching here where I left off, come down and then go across the bottom of the zipper. Be really careful here because there's metal. Make sure you don't hit that metal with your needle, you'll break it. And I'll just go straight across here. That'll hold the rest of this zipper guard in place until I sew it to the gusset and the back of the sleeper. And then we'll have like 2 legs on the front of the sleeper. Our next step here is going to be to do the snap tab. So before we sew that together, I've already gone ahead and taken the step of sewing one side of the snap onto one side of the snap tab. That's so that these little threads here won't show on the outside once this is assembled. So now I'm going to place these 2 snap tab pieces right sides together, and we are going to stitch around 3 sides. Leave that straight side open. Once you've got the snap tab done, you're going to place it where it will cover the zipper when the zipper is closed. And we're going to fold that raw edge under just a little bit, and we will pin and place it stitching here. Next, we hand sew the other side of the snap onto the front. And now with the snap tab sewn on and the snap sewn in place, we are ready to move on to sewing the toes in. We're going to be sewing the wider end of the toes onto this little curve here. So I know it looks like we're putting a lot of fabric together, but they'll work because of the curves. So I'm lining up the mark, the center mark, and then I'm going to pin that in place. And I'm going to take the edge to the edge here and then match up the raw edges in between. Okay, so we'll stitch all along there with a stretch stitch. And with those toesies sewn on, we are done with the front for now. We are now going to work on the back. So what we want to do with the back, we're going to open it up, and we want to sew in the back gusset piece. So the wider part of the gusset is what's going to go on the back here. And I'm just going to match the center of the back gusset with the center in between the 2 back legs here. And then I'm matching up those raw edges down each leg. And we're going to stitch that in place with a stretch stitch. So here's that gusset sewn into the back piece. Now we're going to take the back and the front, and we are going to match them at the shoulders and stitch across the shoulders. The next step is going to be to open up the sleeper at the shoulders, and we want to match up the sleeve with that shoulder seam and then pin it into place. And then we're going to stitch the sleeves in. Okay, with your sleeve sewn in, then you want to fold the whole thing right sides together. And next we are going to match up those sleeve seams, match up the ends of the sleeves, and match all the way down the side seams. So we'll sew all the way from the sleeve down to the heel on one seam with a stretch stitch. Once those side seams are sewn, we're going to move on to the next step, which is to sew the inseam. We're going to match up the center of the front part of the gusset with the center of the front legs here. And just like we did for the back, we're going to then stitch that in place. And when we stitch this side, we'll be going all the way down to the heel of the leg. And you can see I'm pressing that gusset seam from the back towards the front. On this side, there's going to be more layers involved because we still have that zipper guard back there. We're going to stitch through all of those layers. Okay, make sure that's all laying flat. And then we're going to stitch down one side, around the gusset, and then down the other side. With the inseam and gusset sewn in, we are getting to the final steps here. The next thing we need to do is on the sleeves, we need to fold them up for the hem, a little 3/8 inch hem here. And once that is stitched, it's going to look like this. Then we need to sew the heels of the feet on. So you're going to grab your soles and you want to match up the mark with the center front of the toe. And then we are going to match that all around. And then we are going to sew around the foot to finish off the feet. Finally, we are also going to need to finish off the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that pinned in place and we'll kind of stitch all of these together. You want to leave a 1/2 inch beyond the edge of the zipper when you're pinning your neckband right sides together. So we'll sew the neckband along that edge. And it's starting to look like a sleeper. The last thing we got to do is finish the neck here. So what you want to do on the neck is we are going to fold this right sides together next to the zipper. And you want to line up those raw edges. And then go ahead and let the seam, the side that you sewed to the neck, go ahead and let that fold up. So you'll have one raw edge longer than the other. Then we're going to stick that under the machine and we're going to sew it right in a line next to the edge of the zipper. Okay, once you've got that end stitched, you are going to flip that around. So now we've got a seam right next to the zipper here, and we can fold down the remaining part of the neckband, and it will cover up our previous line of stitching. Then on the right side, we'll zigzag stitch right here, so one side lands on either side of this neckband seam, and that will finish off the inside nicely as well. Okay, and then you can see there's what that zigzag stitching on the neck looks like, and here is what it looks like on the inside. I used a zigzag stitch that was 3.5 millimeters in width and 2 millimeters in length. Okay, y'all, once you have that neckband finished in, then you can zip this up and you are finished with your sleeper. You've got the zipper tab to cover it, keep that from scratching the baby. You've got the zipper for access to change diapers, and you've got toes to keep little feet warm. And check out this playlist. I've got more ideas for gifts to sew for baby.